You are listening to the Centaku Media podcast, a source for sharing interests beyond the scope of anime because we're in the center of other otaku interests. Hey everyone, this is your host, Jojo Tran of the Centaku Media podcast. It is the 21st episode of the Centaku Media Journal for the week of August 15th, 2021, and thank you for listening, and if this is your first time here, I hope you'll follow along if anime and other otaku and Asian pop culture interests is your mood. So, with that is what we'll talk about in yet another episode of the Centaku Media Journal, where we talk about the latest happenings in those realms of interest. So, with this episode, we got a lot to talk about, a lot of exciting anime news to talk about, and as well some really, progressing, developing gaming news stories as well that I'm pretty sure some of you know about already, but we'll get the chance to talk about it in this episode because there's been significant developments, and this will be a good opportunity to touch up on them. But before we begin the episode, I always start an intro, and this is something I've been juggling on and off for quite some time with the podcast, but I think I'm just going to stick with it. And I also got back into the habit of editing it where you can skip sections. If you listen to this on Anchor, I think you can skip sections. There's like chapters of the podcast. So that's what I'm doing with this. Going back to my roots, I guess when I started the podcast, I made it to where I'll just, record each segment and then tidy it up and then launch it and then promote the heck out of it. So I'm going to go back to doing that. So just to give you some ideas of what's going on in Centaku Media as a whole in the community. So the giveaway, I've talked about a giveaway that was being held on the Twitter account for at Centaku Media, which is at Centaku Media. The giveaway concluded on August 6th, and it was for a $25 PlayStation Network gift card. So that winner has been announced, and congratulations to at Mighty League for winning the contest. And just to clarify, all winners were chosen at random because there was, I don't know if it was an honest confusion or someone trying to be, trying to take advantage of it. But this is why I've read about this as to why this is frowned upon. But a lot of fan artists, especially the ones that migrated away from Tumblr after they implemented some changes that kind of affected some parts of their site. I'm pretty sure you all know what I'm talking about. But a lot of these artists, they were more active on Twitter now. And so at the time, Twitter didn't make it to where if someone, quote, retweeted your tweet, they would have known that they've talked about it. If you're the tweet author, you wouldn't know until you get mentioned. But now they made it to where even quote retweets get counted, so that way you can track it easily as to if anyone said anything about a particular tweet. But I think another reason why, not because of attribution issues, but I think it was because of confusion for other things. So this one particular a participant in the giveaway thought they were the only winner of the giveaway, but I told them that they had to basically retweet and like that one tweet, in which I quote retweeted in the last 6 hours before the contest concluded, and I told them that all winners are chosen at random to keep it fair. So yeah, so that's to clarify in case it happens again. Everything is chosen by random, and also for the future, I will try to make it multi-platform because it was just locked on Twitter. So I know a lot of people have just Instagram and not Twitter, or just Twitter, not Instagram, or vice versa. So I want to try to make it multi-platform next time. So I'm looking into some tools that will make that easy for me. Actually, I know a tool in mind. So if you think about Rafflecopter, that's probably what it is. But we'll see. As soon as I figure out the next giveaway idea, you'll know about it, and I'll probably have it extended a little longer for those that are interested. So anyway, that is it about the giveaway. So thank you all for those that participated, and I hope you will win something in the future. And for the next news, we're talking about Twitch. So Twitch, for those that haven't been on this Centaku Media channel on Twitch, which is twitch.tv/Centaku Media, As of this month, we're streaming Shenmue 3, Persona 5, and for our Anything Goes sessions, we have Final Fantasy 14, Genshin Impact, and Pokemon Sword from the current generation of Pokemon. And so Shenmue 3 and Persona 5 are our main games on the channel right now until it's seen through and completion. And then Anything Goes is something that I've been talking about for quite a long time, and I wasn't sure what direction to go with it. But basically, it are games that don't really focus on too much of the story, kind of like the games, the main two games that we play on our channel. So it's just basically something to kill the time. But I mean, technically, they actually do have, those games in particular do have a story, but some of them, I don't even have to play the story, but it's just kind of where it is because it's basically a game where I'm not paying too much attention to it at the moment. Anyway, yeah, so that's what I'm playing on the channel, and you can check out the schedule of when I will play those. We stream Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And coming in September, we might add a 4th stream day, so stay tuned for that. And lastly, we have... Oh yeah, so we're actually winding down with Season 2 of the Centaku Media Journal. So, we started the Centaku Media Journal last May 2020 to be exact. So, we ended Season 1 back in December, but with things that happened, I had to adjust the schedule a little bit, and also there was a time where I just said, I can't work on this, I need like a break, and I did it unannounced, so I apologize for that for those that were looking forward to new episodes after the first 2 episodes of the podcast. But we're back now, and now we're like 4 episodes away from the conclusion of Season 2, which is slated for September 29th, so that will be when the season finale drops. And as for the return, I am not sure yet, but I might switch to a monthly format, or keep it bi-weekly but have shorter episodes in each season and give myself like a 2-month break between seasons. But it all depends. So like I said, it's a little work in progress. So thank you for sticking around this long if you enjoy the podcast. And if you enjoy the podcast, be sure to share everything that's put out on Centaku Media, especially on the socials. And also, I do have a Ko-fi account, which you can find in the description of this episode of the podcast. And it's also on centakumedia.com, which you can find the show notes for this episode for anything that's been talked about. As well, you can find trailers of a lot of the anime, gaming, and whatever other announcements we talk about in the episode as well. So that would be greatly appreciated. So anyway, think I'm done with all the announcements for the brand, Centaku Media brand. And actually, funny story, I actually recorded this like a week in advance, and it came out to be 15 minutes long. Where I'm like, what am I talking about? What did I talk about? We're gonna do that again. So of course it helps to just do it multiple times, so that way you'll get better at it, and then realize that this is going nowhere. Oh yeah, so I guess one more thing I do want to talk about is that there's a new episode of the Ikari Strain, and I don't really get to talk about this that much, and I feel bad that I haven't promoted it as much, but the Ikari Strain we launched our 2nd episode recently, and the Ikari Strain, there are new episodes the 2nd Thursday of every month, in which we talk about things that are a common annoyance, or maybe a personal annoyance that not many people realize that it's being shared. So one of the episodes, our debut episode, was about spoilers. So, of course, with social media, it's becoming increasingly difficult to avoid spoilers. So this episode touches upon that, as well as some examples of how things can be spoiled when the intention was innocent. So that's the idea of the Ikari Strain, and Ikari stands for anger in Japanese, so I hope that makes a whole lot of sense. But this episode that we launched for August is about Twitch, and there's a lot of issues plaguing Twitch, so unless you have connections, it's not a big deal for you. But as a small streamer myself, I hope these can relate to those that are also struggling to find a footing on the streaming website. So be sure to check out the Ikari Strain, which is probably the previous episode before this, so be sure to check it out. And also, we're on podchaser.com or org. Yeah, we're on the Podchaser, so that link is also in the show notes and in the description. So if you like this podcast, be sure to leave us a review and share the love. Anyway, that is it for the intro. I will see you in a little bit after a word from our sponsors. Welcome back to episode 21 of the Centaku Media Journal. Thank you for tuning in, and we are going to talk about anime news, and we got quite a few exciting stories that have developed in the last 2 weeks since our previous episode of the journal, in which this is a bi-weekly series. That way it gives us time to see what comes out of what's going on, because, and honestly, I don't think I'll be able to keep up with every week, so I think this bi-weekly format works. It may be, but like I said, I might do a monthly format moving forward, starting third season, but we'll see. But, so our first story of episode 21 is the news of the latest anime adaptation of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and that is titled Stone Ocean, which is the 6th part of the long-running franchise that's been running since 1987. Yep, 1987. And what's interesting is that this series in particular is actually almost 2 decades old. But let's talk a bit about what's going on with part 6 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. So, Netflix had a live stream event, or I think there was a live stream event. I don't know if it was a Netflix one. It says a live stream event, so it might be just for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. But the live stream show, revealed the promotional video, cast, staff, and key visual for Stone Ocean, and the anime. Again, and this is kind of a theme for the last 3 or 4 episodes of the Centaku Media Journal, where Netflix is involved. So this means that Part 6 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure will exclusively stream on Netflix worldwide in December, which is actually a month before the Japanese broadcast in January. And yes, it's actually this December, not December 2022, is actually very less than 6 months away. So, it will air in Japan. For those that are curious, it will air in Japan on Tokyo MX, MBS, and BS11. So the cast for Stone Ocean, the voice cast, that is, includes Masumi Tamura as Hermes Costello, Maria Ise as FF, or who also goes by Foo Fighters. That's a long story for this whole crazy franchise. Don't worry about it. So yeah, they go by Foo Fighters. Asumi Tanasaki plays Emporio El Nino. Yuichiro Umehara as Weather Forecast or Weather Report. I think that's another band reference. Daisuke Namikawa as Narciso Anastasia or Narciso Anasui. And Daisuke Ono plays Jotaro Kujo. And as previously announced, anime will star Ai Fyros as Jolene. David Production is returning to produce the series, with Kenichi Suzuki returning from parts 1 through 3 as the chief director, and Toshiyuki Kato from Diamond is Unbreakable series director, and thus spoke Kishibe Rohan. He was the director of Stone Ocean. Yasuko Kobayashi is returning from the previous anime that handled the composition, and Masanori Shino from Black Lagoon, Gungrave, and No Guns Life as the character designer. We also have Shinichi Ishimoto from Golden Wind, who was the chief animation director for that, who will be the stand designer, and Yoshikazu Iwanami, who's returning as the sound director, along with Yugo Kano for the composer from parts 3 through 5. And so for those that are curious as to what is going on and why there are multiple parts of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, this 6th part in particular explains that, it's still confusing even reading it, and as someone that just started watching JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, it's still a lot to take in. But anyway, so Netflix describes part 6 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, where it takes place in Florida, in the United States in 2011. After an accident while on a drive with her sweetheart, Jolene Cujo falls into a trap and is sentenced to 15 years. She is sent to the state-run maximum security correctional facility, Green Dolphin Street Prison, aka the Aquarium. On the first of despair, she receives a pendant from her father that causes a mysterious power to awaken inside of her. There are things in this world that are more terrifying than death, and what's happening in this prison is definitely one of them. A message from a mysterious boy who appears before Jolene, inexplicable events that occur one after another. A horrifying truth told to her by her father when he comes to visit. In the name Dio, will Jolene ultimately be set free from the stone ocean they call prison? The final battle to end century-long fateful confrontations between the Joestar family and Dio begins. So, yeah, that was a lot to take in, but actually, when I said that this story in particular is like almost 2 decades old, it actually was the manga ran from 1999 to 2003, with 17 volumes, consisting of volumes 64 through 80 of the JoJo's Bizarre manga, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure manga all around, overall rather. But yeah, as I said, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure has actually been running since 1987. So years ago, it actually caught my interest. Maybe right before I got really into anime, because there was a PlayStation 1 game, a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure game that was released. And I think it came out here in the US, and I think it was released by Capcom initially. But now it's like a thing of the past, and now in this day and age where we got plenty of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure to go around, I'm like, shouldn't I have went after that game when it came out? Because it's taking me this long to actually start watching JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and as I said, I actually started watching it this week. So I'm right now on episode 5 of the first season, and yeah, it's crazy. And I actually started watching JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I didn't actually actively start watching it until now, but one day I was at a friend's house and we watched one of the episodes. I think it was, I want to say part 3 or 4, but I will actually link it in the show notes which you can view on the CentakuMedia.com blog. And it's of one of the characters that has a stand, and they're trying to see a character that's in the hospital, but the nurse wouldn't let them. So they have this stand come out and say, "Ho, you better let me in," or something like that. And I'm like, what? Because that caught me off guard, because it was very... You don't expect something like that from an anime series, so I was crying, crying laughing when it happened. But you'll see what I'm talking about if you check it out in the show notes. I actually posted I actually posted it on a blog because it was so crazy. So be sure to check that out. But yeah, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Stone Road comes in December. I thought there was a date set for it, unless I missed it before I actually wrote my sources down. So, but yeah, it comes in December, and again, like I said, Netflix is coming in clutch again with these AAA anime titles, because we already had Hathaway, and then now we get JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and I think something else. I'm pretty sure I've talked about this, but yeah, Netflix is on top of it. So yeah, thank you again, Netflix, for coming in and giving the fans what they want. So that is it for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure news, and the next one is actually still relating to a streaming service, but it's not Netflix this time. So this has been in the works, or rather, it's been in talks for quite a while, and it might have been hinted at 2 years ago. But it seems that whatever happened 2 years ago was only temporary, and now it's official. So Crunchyroll, they originally had a partnership with Funimation, where they would share anime titles between the two sites, or rather, Funimation have their titles on Crunchyroll's site. And if you haven't noticed, Crunchyroll, they mostly cater to, I guess, sub fans. They very rarely have very few anime series on Crunchyroll have English dubs, but I think most of it was on Crunchyroll because of Funimation. But it wasn't until the end of 2018 that Crunchyroll and Funimation parted ways with the partnership. So a lot of the titles that were originally on Crunchyroll disappeared that were from Funimation, and also on Furv, which is actually owned by Crunchyroll. Elation Incorporated, I think that's a parent company. So, yeah, a lot of Funimation stuff got taken away, and people were like, well, dang, we have to basically pay a sub for Funimation. So people will either have to pay 2 subs or just choose one or the other. And plus, I know some of the shows you can watch on Netflix. I guess between the two, either on Netflix or Hulu, but I know that at some point you can only watch it on one now. That's kind of the way it's looking. But, as of this week, apparently Crunchyroll and Funimation are officially one. Due to a merger between Sony and AT&T. So, from Anime News Network, the title is Sony's Funimation Global Group completes acquisition of Crunchyroll from AT&T. So it was announced that the purchase was complete for the price of $1.175 billion, and the proceeds were paid in cash at the closing of the deal. So AT&T is noted in an article saying that they expect to use the proceeds from the transaction to help support its debt reduction efforts. Interesting. So, the announcement, according to the article, the announcement did not reveal how or if the individual streaming platforms were merged or plans for subscription costs for users. Crunchyroll's own announcement reads, "The two brands you know and love will be working together, and we believe this is a great thing for fans in the industry alike. Both teams are knowledgeable, passionate, and have been committed to the anime community for decades. We couldn't ask for better partners. We know you may have questions, and today we will begin the work of bringing two awesome teams together to bring you with more of what you love, and thank you for your trust and support." So Funimation on their blog updated the news, adding that our first priority is you, the millions of fans who form the global community that is anime, and now we have the opportunity to create a unified anime subscription experience that puts fans first, offering the most comprehensive lineup ever. There's lots to do, and so the work begins today to make it happen. Kenichiro Yoshida, chairman, president, and CEO of Sony Group Corporation, commented on the merger, saying, "We are very excited to welcome Crunchyroll to the Sony Group. Anime is a rapidly growing medium that enthralls and inspires emotion among audiences around the globe. The alignment of Crunchyroll and Funimation will enable us to get even closer to the creators and fans who are the heart of the anime community. We look forward to delivering even more outstanding entertainment that fills the world with emotion through anime." Sony Pictures chairman and CEO Tony, I apologize if I butchered this, Finchikira said, Crunchyroll said of Crunchyroll adds tremendous value to Sony's existing anime businesses, including Funimation and our terrific partners at Aniplex and Sony Music Entertainment Japan. With the addition of Crunchyroll, we have an unprecedented opportunity to serve anime fans like never before and deliver the anime experience across any platform they choose, from theatrical, events, home entertainment, games, streaming, linear TV, everywhere and every way fans want to experience an anime, and our goal is to create a unified anime subscription experience as soon as possible. So, yes, as I said, they apparently announced this acquisition attempt in December 2020, with the purchase price that was stated, which is $1.175 billion. The technology website, The Information, reported in August 2020 that AT&T offered Crunchyroll to Sony for $1.5 billion, and that Sony reported balked at the price, which effectively values the streaming service at $500 per subscriber. $500? Huh. Entertainment news source Variety reported that AT&T was shopping the company to multiple potential buyers aside from Sony at the time. Nikkei Asia later reported in October that Sony was in final negotiations for the acquisition. At the time, the newspaper reported that Sony could end up spending more than 100 billion yen, or in US dollars, $957 million. So, yeah, so that has been going around quite a bit, and initially it seemed like it was an insult. From what I mentioned, I think from what I remember when I imagined the whole situation initially before all this officially took place was that, oh, so you saying that anime is not profitable? I don't know, like, apparently they said, okay, we're gonna go ahead and buy it. But guys, it was initially lower, right? The price was lower than what they said. Guys, that was the original price. And it was a little lower, or like, no, it's actually, no, I think this is actually a little lower. It's like, yeah, $1.175 billion. I can't count in billions for some reason, I don't know, but yeah. Apparently it's like a little lower than what they said. But anyway, it's a lot of money. But I said, okay, we'll take it. I guess that's what, like, when I said that was interesting when AT&T said that they would use the proceeds for the debt reduction efforts or something like that. I'm like, oh, interesting. Then again, AT&T, I probably shouldn't delve too much in business matters, but AT&T is kind of iffy. They've been kind of iffy for like maybe a decade now, just with things. But then again, it's a U.S. telecom business, so they're kind of iffy to begin with. But also, this whole merger, like, it's exciting. But you gotta think, if this is AT&T we're talking about, they're one of the companies that basically are the companies you want to look out for when it comes to monopolies. And apparently monopolies are very popular in the US. And where in some countries, like in Korea, they actually frown upon monopolies. So if they suspect a company trying to initiate in these mergers without, merit, without, basically they're saying, well, this will benefit ourselves, but I don't think it will benefit anyone else. They're going to say, wait a minute, what's going on? Because I think I've talked about this in a previous episode, and I'm pretty sure I talked about it in a blog. Like, I don't know, I've talked about so much, I forgot, so I had to find it, but I'm pretty sure, yeah, if I can find the article, I'll be sure to link it before I publish this episode, but, just to sum it up, there was a time where Apple attempted to enter the South Korean phone market because, all Korea had was their own phones for Android. I had LG, you got Samsung, and whatever other homegrown brands they have in the country. And then Apple says, hey, we're going to release an iPhone in Korea. But the government was like, wait a minute, are you sure about that? Because, how, I guess with Apple, I guess they probably paid attention to Apple and considered, figured that they have a huge market share pretty much in the US and I guess other countries where they don't really outlaw that antitrust stuff and monopolies and all that. But I think they basically came to an agreement and said, okay, just don't do this or don't do that. So I think that was the deal. But also you realize that they don't have Apple Music or iTunes. I still say iTunes, but Apple Music. They don't have Apple Music in Korea because of the same reason. So in Korea you got Melon, you got Mnet, you got you got Genie. Pretty much you got like more music services in Korea where you need more than one hand, basically. But think of the not streaming, but think of the websites here in the US where you can download music from. And it has to be more than 3. Or rather, in this case, more than 2. So the only ones you can think of is Apple and Amazon. And it used to be Google, but Google actually got out of the download business. The business of downloading music for pay. So the only options you got is Amazon and iTunes, or Apple Music to the hipsters. Pardon me. But yeah, that's all you have now. But like you got more than 5 to choose from in Korea. And I know in the US they're kind of like saying, well, we don't need to offer downloads because streaming is the way to go. But people still want to have physical, or somewhat physical, a physical holder in their collection. Even though digital is still not physical, you still want to have that one track in case one day Spotify decides to remove it for whatever reason, and probably more than just licensing. So I'm like, okay, whatever. But anyway, I went a little off topic. But the point is that in Korea, you got more options, but in the US, we're kind of like down to the bare minimum right now. And that same goes for mobile phone companies, because last year, and it seems like, I think it's starting to die down now. So T-Mobile acquired Sprint, and this has been going on for the last few years. But it seems that Sprint is they're finally burying the Sprint name, and now we're getting T-Mobile. And also, a disclaimer: this is not sponsored by any of the companies I mentioned in this episode, but. Yeah, so T-Mobile bought out Sprint, so Sprint is basically no more. I'm actually still technically a Sprint customer myself, but it's still trying to push people to get their phones, and I'm kind of waiting for that upgrade opportunity. But anyway, that's not the point. But so you get the only cell phone companies you can think of in the US. You got T-Mobile, Verizon, and AT&T. That's it. And whatever big cell phone company that comes out, one of these three companies are going to try to buy them. I'm pretty sure. And you got at least probably like 5 in Korea. So you got KT Telecom, SK or Sun Communications. Yeah, you got quite a few options. So yeah, just think about it. But anyway, I went off topic on that. But you get what I'm saying. It's just that it seems that eventually with Crunchyroll and Funimation, one company now, it's a matter of time before another streaming website comes along, and then one of these big companies are going to buy them out. And High Dive comes to mind, in which is actually a part of FIRV, and I actually worried about that when I read the announcement of the acquisition. So today, as I'm recording this, which is on the 14th, they did mention that FIRV was included. FIRV is included in the deal, but we don't know any details of any of the products in question. So we don't know anything of what's going to happen to FIRV or Crunchyroll or Funimation as far as the prices go, or whether they're going to kill one and add the other. We don't know that. So this is still a developing story, but of course I will follow up on it as soon as we get more details on it. But yeah, that's kind of big news in very ways, and a lot of people don't like it. Some people say it's a good idea. It might be a good idea, but again, with the nature of the American capitalism, with capitalism in the US, it's kind of like, this probably won't go very well. So, anyway, but yeah, that's a lot to take in. So that's interesting. So, congratulations, I guess. So, yes, it's very exciting. But some more big news. This is actually bizarre news here. And I'm sure some of you thought it was a joke, but it's actually not. So, this next to last story is about Digimon Tamers. So, I saw this on YouTube, and then eventually I saw it on Twitter, and I'm like, I'm not sure what to make of this. So, the writer for Digimon Tamers, Chiaki Kanaka, he got in trouble for something that was a part of the stage play for the 20th anniversary. And because of whatever was put into the story of the stage play, he got a lot of backlash from it. And what's confusing is that the translation of it, you assume is some kind of old school fan sub or wannabe that basically decides to be edgy and then translate stuff like this. And what I mean by that is a reference. Back in the day, there used to be a fan subgroup called Dattebayo Subs, and they were kind of edgy, and they would publicly call out some people for being innocent, and they say, "Oh well, Bleach is canceled, you're banned," or something like that. And they were kind of weird, but they now Dattebayo saying that I don't even know what became of them. I'm pretty sure they just basically faded into obscurity because fan subs are basically dead, so what's the point of fan subbing things? They did comply with a lot of the C&D requests from Funimation and whatever other company that decides to release something legally in the US. But so anyway, this story in particular, which was actually reported at the beginning of the month, he apparently part of his play included a topic of political correctness and cancel culture. So, just to give you an idea of what's going on from the story reported on Anime News Network, they have an in-depth story about what's going on. Chiaki Konaka responded to the backlash where, in the story, serving as a sequel to the Digimon Tamer set in modern day, there were some politically charged words and themes, including political correctness and cancel culture. In the play, the Tamers are reunited to fight against a new villain, which, get this, takes the form of political correctness that threatens the real and digital worlds. Chief Officer Yamaki dramatically describes it as the greatest problem facing the internet and media because it forces people to conform to a single value system and censors real news to replace them with fake news. Although the Tamers are initially nonplussed by Yamaki's breathless call to action, they are shaken when political correctness takes on a physical form and launches into attack. And the villain's special attack is called cancel culture. See, this is like, I would have to find the clip of so there was a YouTuber, actually I featured a video from this YouTuber in a previous episode, where he talks about the video in question, and when he showed it, I was like, I'm confused, is this real or fake? But apparently it was real, but it's a Hirohei, and he actually talks about it in this video, so I'm actually going to link that, so you can get an idea of, like, the context of it going on. But just to continue the story from ANN, Kanaka opened a post to follow up on this controversy, stating that the content of the play was entirely his responsibility and not at all that of Toei Animation Incorporated or the Digifest organizing committee. According to Kanaka, some of the words I used were controversial. However, I did not intend to condemn any particular person or group in this drama, and he also denied expressing any particular political beliefs. Nevertheless, Kanaka admitted that his feelings regarding the mass media's exclusion of quote-unquote alternative journalists during the COVID-19 pandemic were quote-unquote reflected in Yamaki's strong words. When the pandemic started, I stopped opening Twitter for about a year. I also stopped watching CNN's US, which I had subscribed to on cable to see what was really going on, and I've been reading what independent alternative journalists are gathering from open sources, referring to links as I go, he wrote. Kanaka wrote that, in his opinion, COVID-19 is real, but incorrectly claimed that SARS-CoV-2 has not been isolated and segregated. That claim is false according to Reuters fact-checkers. The false claim spread to social media via last year as a method to question the validity of COVID-19 vaccines. Kanaka's post also stated that he would delete any comments that criticized him as a quote-unquote bad person. In an earlier blog post from May, Kanaka decried the deplatforming of YouTuber James Corbett. He wrote that while he did not agree with everything Corbett said, he described him as someone who analyzed the situation rationally and simply continued to sound the alarm around the dangers, not just of the illness, but of the societal situation happening in the world. Corbett's views have included blaming Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates for quote-unquote, manipulating the virus and the pandemic, that the death of Osama bin Laden in 2011 and the Apollo moon landing was a hoax. Along with other unsupported conspiracies. Yeah, so you know where we're just going. So I'm like, dude, like, why? But anyway, so to continue the story, Kanaka remarked that the situation has inspired him with his fiction, that he's been looking for ways to portray it through symmetry and symbolism, even if it does not exactly match reality. And in the post, he explains the situation has changed since he first wrote the reading play script in early spring. This is not so much about Japan as it is about the new difficulties that countries face around the countries around the world are facing. So it was no longer timely to sound messages to the rest of the world. And he also finished by apologizing for creating a divisive story. A lot of people have defended me and told me not to apologize, but it's very hard to see a divide among fans. Just let me just apologize for the fact that I caused it to happen. I don't want any more debate on this issue, he concluded. So, the event was streamed within Japan, the DigiFest event, rather. It was streamed until August 7th. And he wrote that he refrained from commenting on anything until the event was over. And apparently, this is not his first time considering writing something of questionable political, I guess, a level of politicalness as we're in now. He said that he once pitched an official sequel to Digimon Tamer set 20 years later, but it was turned down. And he also mentioned that it was difficult to reassemble the old cast and or make them play significantly older versions of their characters. So the 2021 reading play was conceived as a continuation of the earlier 2018 play instead. And let's give you an idea of how old you are. The Digimon Tamers anime debuted in April 1st, 2001, and that date alone, April 1st, this whole thing was a joke. Digimon is a joke. So, anyway, speaking of a joke, so the whole situation, so now it makes sense now. I'm not a big Digimon fan. Like, I've watched the original Digimon, but I never really went out of my way to, to consume it. I actually, played the Digimon World game. I think it was Digimon World. The game for the PS1. I actually really liked that game. I kind of wish they re-released that. But, that aside, I'm actually a little shocked that he would talk about something like this, and it actually feel like it was, I guess because I don't see Japan indulging in stuff like we do in the US, because right now the level of politicalness is very cringy. Because like, okay, so politics are interesting. I'm not big into politics. It's interesting, and I like it. I guess with everything that's been going on in the last 20 years, like a lot of the media I watch, like Gundam, it's relevant, but it's not real, so that's why I'm like able to watch it comfortably without cringing. So like the last 4 years here in the US, without naming any names, is just very cringy, and then the people in charge are just very, they're clearly looking out for their own interests and not the interests of the people. So after like finding out this was this real, I didn't expect an anime screenwriter to say something like that, or anyone outside the US, I guess. That's what's surprising, but apparently he actually indulged in that information. But it seems like he is self-aware, but he shouldn't have, like, since political correctness and cancel culture are kind of big things right now in the Western world. This is why I understand now why people would like basically say I don't want to support this guy anymore, because these are actually serious issues. So like political correctness, like I'm all for it. I'm personally all for it. Like, but basically, if you are saying that they're bad things, and cancel culture, if you're saying that they're bad things, that means you are dismissing that that person did anything wrong. So like political correctness is like basically acknowledging that okay, we can't do this anymore. Like a lot of the race issues we've had in the past, we have to look at them in a better light and realize this isn't no good. This is no good now in 2021. And then cancel culture is basically like this person did some messed up things, and they got away with basically treating that person in question, very awfully, and then they get away with it, and now people are actually acknowledging they did something, and they're basically saying, get rid of this person, and it's actually like something that should have been done like years ago, but now people are basically looking at this and fronting upon the idea of cancel culture, because they're basically saying, we can't get away with doing shitty things. So, pardon my language, I don't really say anything that level, but they're basically dismissing that idea. So basically say we want to get away with doing shitty stuff. So that's why people are taking this, are disappointed in Kanaka in his comments. But again, it seems like he's self-aware. But again, I'm not a big fan of Digimon, so I'm not really like torn about it. But I don't watch Digimon anyway, so like it doesn't have any attachment to me. So, but still, it's like kind of concerning that he would say things like that, and acknowledge that he did something wrong and I'll never do it again. But apparently he did some other anime. He was involved with other anime series, back in the day, and I didn't think to save him in my notes, but he did some other things besides Digimon. So, but again, but they weren't anything of importance to me. So, but I hope that he didn't work on anything that you enjoyed. Oh yeah, I think he was a part of the Big O. That's why. So yeah, he was involved with the Big O, and that's actually shocked me. But I don't think of anything political when I think of the Big O. And actually, if anything, it does remind me of Batman, the animated series from the 90s. And I think that's originally why I didn't like it. But I tried watching Batman back in the day, but I just didn't like. I guess the animation style wasn't my thing back in the day. But now I have like a strong bond with the Big O. But Batman, not so much. But maybe that's where he get the idea from, because I think he likes American stuff apparently. But yeah, so yeah, he was involved with the Big O. So that was one of the things. But so yeah, I don't know. I'm curious to know what you all think. So if you want to say anything, be sure to hit up the Discord or leave a comment in this episode on the CentakuMedia.com show notes for this episode. So yes. Anyway, we are kind of running a little short on time. It's one segment went on a little over long than I like to, but like I said, it is what it is at this point. Cause got so much to talk about in so little time, but I'm just gonna make the best of it. So this one's actually gonna be a little short before we go into gaming news. So this is about Bleach, and I love me some Bleach, and I'm actually a little disappointed in myself that I haven't indulged in more Bleach than I should. So, with that said, Viz Media recently published the English translation of the new Bleach one-shot manga, which is, I think, for the 20th anniversary of Bleach. So, the Shonen Jump manga service launched the 76-page chapter of Tidus Kubo's Bleach manga in English, which apparently ends on a cliffhanger and features the words, "New breaths from hell." New breathes from hell? What? Breaths or breathes? I think it's breathes. Like breathes? Like he breathes, but it says new breathes from hell. I'm like, okay. That's what it says in English, and Gokui Memehen in Japanese, where the character for Hen is used to denote the title of an arc. Huh. So, the Weekly Shonen Jump magazine announced a new chapter commemorating the 20th anniversary of the manga's launch, where it teased the story of the one-shot. Ichigo was invited to Soul Society for a certain ceremony, but... ! And... that's all we know. Apparently, there's interest of continuing Bleach. And even though Tidus Kubo said that, yeah, we're ending Bleach, but apparently there's not enough of it. And I'm actually, if that's the case, I'm actually excited for it. And the reason why I said I should be ashamed of myself is because back in 2014, I actually suddenly stopped reading the manga. And, well, to be fair, and just so, y'all don't pick on me, it was actually during a bad time. I was facing a difficult time in my life where a family member was ill, and I just couldn't enjoy the things I usually enjoy, except for like the things that were like really close to me, like Bleach. I was all over Bleach, but I read the manga like weekly. It was right before these digital official releases were a thing, so I had to basically go to scan sites to read them. But I actually vividly remember the last chapter I left off of, and that was on 602, chapter 602. Whoo, 600 chapters, y'all. But yeah, so I knew Bleach was ending, but at that point I just couldn't continue reading it, so I had to drop it eventually. But thankfully I stopped at a good point in the manga, because that's an easy number to remember, apparently. So, yes, I have yet to finish Bleach 6 years later. Or rather, 7 years later? Yeah, 2014. That's where I stopped reading it. But I do have the Viz manga app, and I am subscribed to their service so I can read Dragon Ball Super. And I have read the first, 2 chapters of Bleach. So yeah, I'm on 604 now, so I have to basically get back up on it. But with my schedule, I need to find a time out of the day to actually catch up on a lot of things, especially on manga. And I know there's a couple of books I need to read up on, but that's kind of give you an idea of what my life's been like. Like, I got a lot of things to do, but I also got to take care of myself. So I'm like, that's important. So one of these days, before, even if Bleach decides to make a full comeback, I need to catch up, so I have plenty of time. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But again, Bleach is back, so be sure to check it out in the latest well, I say it like it's been released in the US, but we get like each chapter of it. But it was released in the combined 36th and 37th issue of Weekly Shonen Jump. So be sure to check it out as soon as you can. So I'll be sure to catch up with it eventually. So that concludes the anime news segment, and we are about to dive right into the gaming news segment. And one of them, we're going to talk about something that's really big that's been happening pretty much for the month of August so far. For our first piece of gaming news is actually something that has been around for the last few weeks, almost to a month now, and it was something I actually wanted to talk about when it first broke, but I wanted to see what was going to happen, because it feels like for the how big the issue is, I feel like there was more to this, and sure enough, I was right. There's actually it seems like every other day there's more news coming out about this huge issue that's currently the talk of the gaming community, and I'm sure y'all know what I'm talking about, and that is the case against Activision Blizzard versus the state of California. So I'm going to talk about what's going on and the reason for the lawsuit, and there's like so much to talk about. Like there was more that I got in like an article, most recent article about some more news that's happened in the past week in the recording script, and all that stuff that I do to prepare for this episode. But I might like do a car restraint episode just about everything that's been going on because of how, due to the nature of that show, and then everything going on, it's just so much to take in. But there's been, again, like I said, this is an updated story of someone that was involved with Blizzard that basically is stepping away from the company. But just to give an idea of what's going on, to sum up what's been going on, the state of California issued a lawsuit against Activision Blizzard alleging widespread sexual harassment and discrimination, where Kotaku compiled a report about a Cosby suite that was a room, I guess that was filled with developers and those connected to Blizzard back in during BlizzCon 2013, and it was described as an informal networking hotspot with these Blizzard developers, and the room is filled with booze, and apparently there was a picture with the former designer for World of Warcraft, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to butcher his last name, Alex Afrasiabi. So yeah, it was called a Cosby suite. I wonder if it was like a play on his name, and then of course, there was issues against Bill Cosby several years back. But this guy, Afrasiabi, he was accused in the California lawsuit for repeatedly sexually harassing female coworkers and others, and sources have told Kotaku that this behavior was an open secret. And again, this a reminder, this happened way back in 2013, if not maybe longer. And apparently, this guy, Afrasiabi, he had a character, NPC, named after him in World of Warcraft. And to make it completely messed up, and it's actually kind of sad considering that, Blizzard is behind Overwatch. There was actually a developer that was actually involved with the Diablo games. That was actually, his name is named after a Overwatch character, and wait for it. And when I saw this, I'm like, I can't believe there was actually a guy with that name, and it's actually Jesse McCree. So Jesse McCree, he was a developer for Blizzard for a long time, who was actually one of the people involved in the Cosby suite in 2013. And apparently he responded at one point when Afrasiabi wrote that he planned to marry women coming into the suite, where McCree said, "You misspelled the F word." Just to fill that in. But because of all of that happening, he actually was let go from the company, including 2 other developers. As in the past week that this has been happening. But apparently Activision Blizzard did not confirm the reason for the departures, and it said there was no reason provided. Or rather, no reason was provided, well, when teams were told internally either. And because of Jesse McCree, the developer, because of his involvement, it's awkward for those that are fans of the character McCree in Overwatch. So, that said, I don't really, like, it was actually interesting to keep up with, considering I was actually really into Overwatch a few years back, but not so much anymore, and not because of all of this, but I just actually got burnt out of it. I got burnt out playing Overwatch, and I actually started playing Overwatch not too long ago. I started playing it again on PC during our Twitch streams, but after all this happened, and then my mood of playing the game, and I remembered, oh yeah, this is why I stopped playing Overwatch, because of the community. But I'm mostly a console gamer, so it never really bothered me. So, like, anything that was said, that was like, you can't type in the console version on the PC version. I used to say something stupid because of some move I did. And actually, that's what happened, but we're not going to get into that. But, Overwatch League in particular, there were some casters, I guess, during a match, Overwatch League match recently, and they basically stepped around having to say McCree's name. So when McCree was actually involved in a match, they said the cowboy, and anything other that would basically give away that it was McCree. And the casters in particular, it was Brandon Hook and Josh Sideshow Wilkinson, that basically they confirmed that it was a personal decision. So I totally agree. Like, if we found out, now that we know that he apparently was involved with his character was, named after a problematic person with Blizzard, I could totally understand. And that goes also for that Frosby guy. So, and actually I just realized that I wonder how many other characters are named after problematic people at Blizzard. So it's actually kind of sad when you think about it, because, well, I don't even remember, like, I actually used to play WoW back in the day. I played it religiously, and I tried to get 2 characters to level 70. I had 1 character to level 70. This was like back in the Burning Crusade days. And when Wrath of the Lich King came out, I tried to get that 1 character to 70 as well, but I was just like, I can't do it. I got burnt out. But Frosby was, there was an NPC named after him, and now I think they either removed it completely or renamed it in an effort to try to heal the Blizzard community. And this is a huge blow to Blizzard, and I also have a feeling that they knew this was coming, because leading up to the reveal of Endwalker, like the extended reveal of Endwalker for Final Fantasy XIV, there was the reported influx, the beginning of the reported influx of players that used to play WoW that are coming to 14, and they're enjoying every minute of it. And apparently they ran a poll, like Blizzard, I think it was on the World of Warcraft Twitter account, they ran a poll, or some kind of poll somewhere, that Blizzard, is an official Blizzard poll that basically said, how do you feel about WoW? And people were under the impression of, oh, do they know their game is dying? Like, you've had, 15 years to make improvements, and it's the same thing every time. So, I'm being biased, but 14 is so much better game, like, even better than their own Final Fantasy 11 game. Which, by the way, as of recording this, the Welcome Back to Final Deal campaign is actually live now. I think you get 10 free days of playtime. But anyway, so yeah, it's like Blizzard knew they were not in the best position. They knew that. I think they probably knew that was coming, so they were like, yeah, let's just see how people feel about our products. And even I did not know this, and this is how much out of the loop I am with anything Overwatch related. But apparently, Jeff Kaplan, he was the creator, I think lead creator of Overwatch. He actually left the company earlier this year. I did not know that. So I think that's why development for Overwatch 2 is delayed. But yeah, so I found that interesting too, that he left the company. But apparently he was one of those, typical male gamers that complain about every little thing openly. And I think this was before I think before social media became a thing. I think, if I remember correctly, he was like an avid player of one game, and because of his drive to basically suggest changes to the game, he eventually became involved with Blizzard, and then he was in a position he was in now, but now he's no longer with the company. So that might have been like the beginning of things to happen up until now. So that's all that's going on. So now, we got one other person that has left the company, and apparently the founder, I forget his name, and maybe his name doesn't even need to be bothered mentioned right now, at least. He actually left Blizzard. I think he was like the president or co-president of the company, and they hired 2 people to task in the leadership for Blizzard. And apparently they were, people were pointing out, these people, they've been in company for a while, how come they didn't say anything? So they're not, they need to be held accountable still if you knew all this shit happened. So it is a huge mess, and that's why I'm like, I need like more details of this. So this is like one of the most recent developments, but you can check out the article. I have the link to the article of the McCree story, and also they have a link of other stories that have been developed so far concerning the lawsuit. So again, I will try to like do a episode. I gotta figure out where to start. Of the Akari strain, or another special episode about everything that's been happening so far, and how it's impacted the gaming community. So there we go. But let's move on to a little more better news. So this is another issue that's plaguing a gaming community, and is concerning Pokemon Go. And this is one of concerning the feature that Niantic, I hope I pronounced that right, that Niantic, they are the developers of Pokemon Go, something they implemented last year due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So they basically increased the game's distance, so that way people won't have to actually go out in a crowd to catch Pokemon. So like if they wanted to catch Pokemon, they could just stay where they are in their home and then catch what they wanted. So I think it was it was 80 meters originally, but at the end of July, beginning of August, they basically reverted the original distance to 40. It went back to 40, and people with the Delta variant now dominant in the environment, people are boycotting. There's some people boycotting Pokemon Go in the US and in New Zealand. So Niantic heard them, and in response to the boycott, the company announced that it formed an quote-unquote interaction distance task force in response to the boycott. And I'm like, well, why are you doing a task force but not actually reverting it? Because to be honest, we're with the Delta variant, we're kind of back where we were back in February as far as the rates of the infection go. And even with the vaccine, there's still a lot of people not getting vaccinated because of some, who knows why, some really messed up reason that's not true at all. So the company stated that it will share its findings of the task force by the next in-game season change on September 1st. So until then, the distance will remain at the 40 meters that it was set when the game launched. So the company also added exploration bonus rewards to the game to restore some of the foundational elements that the players enjoyed prior to 2020. But of course, these were implemented in select geographies where it was deemed safe to be outdoors. So they also said that Niantic will be starting I guess they'll be reaching out to their community leaders in the coming days to join them in the dialogue about this issue. And of course, Pokemon Go recently celebrated the 5th anniversary, so this is not a good look for the company, for the game itself. If they're like basically turning a blind eye to these concerns, you think with everything going back to the way they were in February prior to the full vaccine rollout, they will just say, yeah, we're gonna change some things up. So that's a little concerning. Actually, I don't even play Pokemon Go anymore. I just, I don't have a patience for mobile games, and it's fun to do. I think between Pokemon Go and Dokkan Battle, which is a Dragon Ball Z mobile game, and then Final Fantasy Record Keeper. I think Pokemon Go is probably the most time I spent with when it comes to mobile games, but I just don't have the patience for it anymore, unfortunately. So I really hope that Niantic basically just go back to implementing the 80 meters into further notice. I don't know why they just didn't implement it. So, okay, yeah, we're gonna basically go back and to say, yeah, we're gonna roll it back until further notice to 80 meters until it's safe to do so. But yeah, I hope Niantic actually takes the community seriously. There's actually an EV community event going on as I record this episode. So yeah, that's not a good look from the company if there's anything bad that comes out of this event, because people will go to where they need to go to get what they need. So that's it for that story in particular. But moving on to one more gaming news, and this one's actually something that I actually had a laugh out of, just to lighten up the mood. So Final Fantasy X, they recently celebrated their 20th anniversary in July, and of course, I was all about it. So in the previous episode, I spent several minutes, if not a little more, talking about why Final Fantasy X-3 needs to happen, and it might happen according to Tetsuya Nomura once he's finished with Final Fantasy VII Remake. So yeah, you can listen to that episode 20 if you are curious and find out the details about that, and just to hear me talk about why it needs to be one and why it hasn't been attempted yet. But this one in particular is about the original concept of Tidus. So get this, y'all. So Mario, right? He is like a plumber. He's a plumber. Mario's a plumber. But are there any other video game characters you can think of that are plumbers? I guess besides Luigi. I mean, I guess outside of Mario. What other game characters can you think of that are plumbers? Well, what if I told you Tidus was actually originally meant to be a plumber? So that's what I got a chuckle out of. And of course, Crazy Nomura, he had all these ideas of everything that's, I don't know, I have no idea what's going on in that man's head. And this was, again, remind you, this was like in the early 2000s, late 90s, that all this was going on. So it's not just recent. So there's actually some details about another franchise that Nomura is involved with that you'll get a kick out of. But anyway, there was an article on Kotaku that was sourced from Famitsu magazine. The key developers recount bringing the game to conception to completion. And according to Katsushige Nojima, he said that to get the character in the water for the initial plan, there was a time in which Tidus was meant to be an underwater plumber. And again, Nomura drew illustrations of Tidus as a plumber, but he was eventually changed to a blitzball player because I guess they said, I think it would be easier to incorporate Tidus as an athlete than a plumber. And they said that originally, I guess with blitzball, instead of having him be a plumber, it said that they added blitzball because it was a way to get Tidus in the water without him having to fix pipes. And according to someone from Famitsu asked Nomura if there was any traces of him being a plumber previously, and he says the overall seemed to be, and then he initially added that the designs gave the impression of work clothes, but when Tidus was changed to an athlete, as an athlete rather, the design became much more sporty. And Yoshinori Kitase, the producer of 10, he says it was his idea to make Tidus an athlete, and it was an inspiration from Kitase's love of science fiction that have racer sports elements. And of course, that was an opportunity to add a sports element to a Final Fantasy game, so that was pretty cool. And they also said that so they even said that there was actually another concept that was ultimately scrapped because of Nomura's crazy mind. So this is not 10 related at all, but it's actually Kingdom Hearts related. So get this. So Nomura pitched, when he pitched Kingdom Hearts to Disney, his weapon of choice was chainsaws. Chainsaws. Guys, like a horror movie chainsaw. Again, this is was meant to be a Disney game. So, according to Nomura, said the first weapon I showed Disney was a chainsaw. And he also followed up saying, everyone got this scrunched up look on their face and nobody said a word in the entire room. And he was like, yeah, we're gonna go with the Keyblade. So I'm like, oh my gosh, Nomura. And then when I read that, I was talking about, I thought about, the announcement for the Final Fantasy Origin game that was announced at E3. That's also a Nomura game that's coming out soon. And I'm pretty sure this was an official translation where he said that he wanted to explain the story of an angry man. And that's like almost every Final Fantasy game you can think of. Like, Noctis, technically, yes, he was an angry man, and then you have Squall, who basically would say whatever, and then you have Cloud, and I'm like, that's nothing new. I guess the only exception was Tidus, because Tidus' personality was kind of, out there, He was he's very extroverted, and of course, I guess he got it from his father, so, but, yeah, that's like almost every Final Fantasy game I could think of where, there's an angry man involved, with the exception of 10. And, yeah, it's just more, I guess, proof that Nomura has interesting ideas for his games. So, that is it for gaming news, and with that said, we're gonna go into our last segment of the podcast, which is the entertainment and interests news. You've listened to the podcast, now read a blog. Check out the rest of Centaku Media, which features news, reviews, and observations written with a unique approach, catering to like-minded fans of anime and related subcultures. We love anime, but we also share beyond because we're in the center of other otaku media. If this is your mood, please follow along. Check out Centaku Media in the link of the show page or go to centakumedia.com. Be sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Centaku Media. We have a story that I really wanted to talk about considering how out of place it is, but it makes sense depending on how you look at it. So, this is relating to K-pop, to the industry, rather, and it concerns YG Entertainment. Now, if you've been following K-pop for a while, YG Entertainment is not in the greatest position due to all the scandals they've had concerning Sungri, in which as of recording this, he was sentenced to 3 years in prison. So, I know there was like a lot of back and forth saying that he was innocent and all that stuff, but no, like, there was enough evidence, and now he's, serving jail time. And I know YG himself, he's been under investigation too for supposedly threatening a business partner. But yeah, YG Entertainment's a mess, but the only thing you can think of right now that comes out of YG is Blackpink and Winner and iKON. And I know iKON, they've lost a member due to drug possession allegations, or rather he did have possession of, I believe it was BI, and also Bobby, apparently he's getting married and is going to be a father in the next month or so that's like really crazy. But Blackpink is the only group you can think of right now that hasn't had any issues. But because of all the issues YG's had, apparently trying to shave off some of their business ventures. And one of them is actually a golf-related business. So, about 4 years ago, according to Korea Boo, 4 years ago, YG's subsidiary, YG Plus, took over a company called Greenworks, which operates X Golf, which is a golf reservation platform in South Korea. But the reason why YG even went out of the way to do this was because of Big Bang. And back about a decade ago, Big Bang was one of the most profitable groups in the country, in South Korea, but in K-pop as a whole. And so they had a lot of investment opportunities from around the world and even in their own home country. But with the Big Bang members having to go into the military, and then of course that whole uncertain period on whether Blackpink was going to debut or not. Because I remember they kept teasing the next YG girl group for like 5 years or more. So they basically diversify their losses, trying to get into these other business ventures. So from 2014 up until now, they launched and acquired businesses in the Korean barbecue market, and also includes cosmetics, public relations, and now golf. And of course, you also, just a little trivia. So YG actually has like a handful of comedians that sign under their label, and I forget what his name was, but he was actually in Sungri's K-drama YG Future Strategy Office, or whatever it was called. Future Office Strategy, something like that. But I did review it on Centaku Media, so be sure to check it out in the show notes. But the comedian that's involved with that, he actually has a special on Netflix. But he's also signed under YG. I don't know if he's still signed under YG, but he's actually involved with YG. So be sure to check out that review. But they bought Greenworks in 2017 for about 31.5 billion won, or 27.3 million US dollars. And it's been profitable since then, but Greenworks is making money, but it hasn't grown. So, but although in 2017 they recorded a revenue of 9.80 billion won, or 8.51 million dollars in the US, and also 2 billion won, or about 1.74 million US dollars when it comes to operating profits. But, well, it looks like it's been doing great, though. But I mean, it's doing okay, but not the best considering how YG is. But as of this year, the figures have increased very modestly to 11.2 billion won to about 3.20 billion won, which is between close to 10 million and 3 million US dollars, respectively. But according to business reports, Greenworks isn't the only YG entertainment business that's suffering. And of course, with all the scandals, YG basically sold off all their other brands, like when it comes to like their barbecue chains and cosmetic brands, to basically help them with their debt issues. But now it seems, because of it getting worse, especially with Sungri now serving 3 years behind bars, they're just basically going to sell off their Greenworks brand. So they were trying to sell it last year, apparently, but it didn't work out. So yeah, so they're just trying to get rid of it. But they also well, it said that the company luck could turn in the opposite direction now that Kakao has lost its own successful golf reservation service, Kakao VX, which threatens to push X Golf out of business. But basically, this whole idea of YG, or any record label like this, trying to get advantage of the golf market, serves as a cautionary tale for the industry. So that I found that interesting, because I knew that YG, and I think Sungri in particular, I think he had some chicken restaurants, kind of like Chicken Nene, or Nene Chicken. I forget how it was. I actually ate there when I went to Korea in 2019, but I don't think it was under the ones that was under Sungri. Or if not, they probably went out of business at that point. But this brand, this chain in particular, they actually had, I believe, 17 and New East W as the face of the chicken company at the time. So I don't know if it was that one, but yeah. So yeah, it's also on come to think of it, there's another company in Korea that actually is in the food business as well. So CJ E&M, they have a entertainment. Well, I'm pretty sure y'all know. I think they have a YouTube channel. If not, I think they renamed it, but they basically have a lot of K-pop videos. Not really K-pop, but just Korean music videos in general. Not just of the ones with the visuals and all that stuff, but just like basically Korean mainstream music artists. But they do have a stake in the food market as well. And actually, if you go to a Walmart, they do sell ramen, not ramen, but or rather ramyeon, if we're talking about Korean ramyeon. But they do have BBGO, which is a product of CJ, they have that, and they also serve. You can find Korean wontons too. That's under the BB Go brand. So yeah, they're all over the place, and even in places you least expect it. So CJEM is one company that actually has stake in almost everything, even the food market. All right, our next to last story is technically an anime story, but I think it falls into the outsider aspect of this one anime franchise, and that franchise is Gundam. So it's not about a specific anime within Gundam, but it actually involves the Tokyo Olympics. So the Tokyo Olympics, finally, after a year and a half of uncertainty, is finally over. But during the coverage from the BBC in particular, they had a hard time pronouncing Gundam. Like, I mean, it's very obvious. Like, how do you pronounce it? It's gun and then a dam. So Gundam or Gundam, pretty much if you try to speed it up a little bit. I mean, it's pretty obvious that it's pronounced the way it's spelled, but either the journalist would say Gundam as if they were Australian, or if they saw that U as an A for some reason, or they just said, screw it, it's a Transformer. No. Although I will say, I guess if Gundam wasn't there, I guess we wouldn't have Transformers, but it's not a Transformer. So, a lot of the events that took place on Odaiba, including the triathlon, they showed shots of the giant Gundam that's located there. But they just struggled with it, and even one of the reporters saying that, oh, it's not pronounced that, it's pronounced this. And actually, I have an audio clip in which I actually have from our previous live stream on the Twitch channel where I actually talked about this. It's a clip from a Twitter that someone recorded on Twitter of the reporter pronouncing Gundam.
It looks a little bit drier. They've gone from rain to sunshine, all in about 400 metres.
Going past this giant statue of Gundam, which is some sort of famous robot. I don't know anything about it, but I was texted yesterday and said that statue they pass in the park is the robot Gundam. So there we are, I've said it.
Yeah, it sounded like he wasn't too thrilled with having to even say the name of it, but wait, he said, see, there, I said it. You could have just said Transformer, but like I said, it would have been a good look for you anyway, but it's over, right? I know that's a really blunt way to say it, but like I said, it's over, you tried. But, I think we need to send some giant Gundams over to London, and so that way they can get familiar with the concept of it. It says not a Transformer. It looks like it, but it's not. But anyway, so apparently it's been like this on Twitter as well. Like I said, it's been all over the talk of Twitter. And a lot of people even trolled the BBC saying ridiculous things like, that's very clearly Messenger C. And then one person said, you guys, you're all wrong. That's clearly a GoBot from the hit superhero robot series Macross. Another one said, isn't that Patlibur? Or Patlibur. I think that's how you pronounce it. Patlibur. I've heard of it, but it's not my cup of tea. Come on, that's clearly an EVA unit. And then, no, you buffoon, that's Dankoga. And some people said, kind of looks like an L game. I don't know. See, yeah, people just basically was like, no, that's not a Transformer. It's probably a, one of those robots from Pacific Rim. I don't know. Or a Metal Gear. I don't know. See, this is how bad it was that people were, trolling them. So, but, anyway, I think they learned their lesson. So, anyway, for those that missed out on the Tokyo Olympics, don't worry about it. I missed out on it, too, and I used to watch the Olympics, religiously, even from the 96 games when I was a wee little girl, but lately, for the last few Olympics, even the Winter Games, I was like, eh. But we'll talk about that another time, but yeah. So congratulations to those that took home their gold medals, and hopefully everyone is recovered before the next games, and hopefully we'll be out of this mess before then. So, last story for the entertainment and interest. news is actually of a former member of the band News, and which I actually talked about in a previous episode, which was interesting. So it's actually kind of surprising that he even would make an appearance about several months after this weird controversy he had. So the former member of News is Yuya Tegoshi. He made an appearance at the World Cosplay Summit, I guess finals? I don't know, because I know they had the qualifiers like during Anime Expo, but they kind of did something different this year with the pandemic and all. But yeah, he made a surprise appearance as Kaoru, who was dressed as the character from Evangelion, and he wore his plug suit, which is depicted in the Rebuild films, and he gave a performance of the Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.0 Thrice Upon a Time theme song, One Last Kiss by singer Hikaru Utada. And he also performed his original song, Are You Ready?, which is the theme song for the Japanese version of the Knives Out Battle Royale online game. And so the World Cosplay Summit took place earlier in August on the 7th and 8th at various locations around the Oasis 21 in Nagoya. And of course, the event was streamed on Nico Nico and YouTube. And yeah, so Yuya in particular, he made his debut with the idol group News in 2003, but he left the group June of last year. And what I reported on was apparently he launched a YouTube channel, but there was some criticism regarding him doing this, and plus apparently he said he left the group and kind of broke his contract. It's kind of weird, but then again, it seemed like Johnny's is just a weird group in particular. And I've talked about Johnny's in the past, and I think even in the last episode I was talking about Johnny's and how, they have this weird stranglehold on their artists, and like they don't want them to have any pin-up shots of them, and even you can't get a magazine featuring a spread about them without it getting, removed completely. A digital issue, that is. But all of that and more can be read in the article I posted a while back called the J-Pop Secret Society. Because I say J-Pop Secret Society because it seems that Japan is trying really hard not to have international fans indulge in their content when it comes to music, but Korea is all over the place. Even it was easy once upon a time to get into download songs from Melon, but now they kind of made it to where it's stream only instead of download. But apparently that's the way it is. When it comes to streaming, that's the way of the world now. No more downloads, but somewhere out there will be a way to download what we want to hear all the time if Spotify or any of these streaming services wants to remove it for some reason. That is it for Centaku Media Journal episode 21. Thank you for listening. Thank you for putting up with my rants. And also, be sure to check out the Ikari Strain, our second episode, which is about Twitch, which is something I hope you all can relate to as a struggling small streamer such as myself. And actually, as of recording this episode, we have one more goal to go before we hit our affiliate qualifications. So if you want to come and check out the channel, you are more welcome to. You do not have to participate in the chat, but lurkers are welcome. And as of recording this is the last week of streams, so we will return the week of August 29th 2021, and the only way to find out what we're going to be streaming for the next month is to check out the socials, which is on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We're on there as at Centaku Media, and also be sure to check out centakumedia.com for more information on our live stream page, and also be sure to follow, because we're going to have another giveaway soon after our successful $25 PlayStation Network giveaway, but this time we'll include other social networks as well, so that way no one will get left behind. But thank you again for listening. Stay tuned for episode 22, which is due in 2 weeks from the launch of this episode, give or take some days. And I will see you next time. So long.